I think it's nice if they can see the actual text. It's in the minor collection. It's also nice for everybody to know where this is found. It's in the minor collection. It's the sayings of the Dhammapada. And we have Acharya Buddharakkhita, which is the one we are interested in. And we're going to have to do a long walk down here. Let me see if, oh, he didn't give any. Okay, we're going to.
It's a
good
reminder.
Yeah, a big reminder of what we covered so far. We're heading to the chapter on violence, which is pretty apropos at the moment, it feels. If you feel sick watching me scroll, please look away. It's like, the fool, the astute or the wise person, the perfected ones.
In chapter 10.
Thousands, wickedness, and now we're in violence. Okay, so I'm not going to use the Pali here, so we're just going to read the.
I don't think we have that you shared it yet.
Sorry, I didn't share it back again. Thank you, Paula. Yes. Now that I have a screen with it on. Okay, there you go. All right. Okay. Okay. I think, I don't know, what would you like to do? Each person read a verse and then discuss it? Just go around the room, or would you rather I just plow through it?
I like the idea. I don't know.
Yeah, I do
Reading
too.
a verse,
Reading.
and
Good. Okay. You don't speak up, that means you're just
Okay,
jumping
that's
on
fine.
board with.
so, if anybody wants to
You need
pass,
a book?
Right. If anyone wants to pass, you certainly can.
I'm fine with that.
Shall we start with the people online? Would you be up for that? Yeah, okay. If I go to gallery views, does it, I don't know if I can, let's see. We've all got books, so we can look at that. Yes. Okay. So I don't know if everybody online is up for this, but let's see. Paula, would you start?
Sure. Do you want Pali and English or just Pali? Just English.
Just English is fine.
Okay. So you're on 129?
That's right.
Oh, okay. Can I read it from my book, or is it better to read it from?
You can read it from your book.
Okay. All tremble at violence. All fear death. Putting oneself in the place of another, one should not kill nor cause another to kill.
Thank you. This feels pretty straightforward, eh? I think what I marvel at sometimes is the things that we have trouble putting ourselves in the place of another. You know, that's just the thought that comes up for me. It's like, how able are we to put ourselves in the place of another? But I think all of us here have a really good sense of what this is. Anybody have any comments? Yes, Marilyn?
You think we all fear death? I don't think we all fear death.
Okay. I mean, I think it's natural to fear death. Don't you?
Well, it seems to be the popular choice, but when you look at it, it fades away, doesn't it?
Yeah, it fades away with practice. I mean, of course, there's the other side where people want to die. There's the Bhawa Tanha and the Vibhava Tanha. Some people are angry that they were ever born. There's that possibility too. And
People really ill.
or being really ill, of course, or like Ajahn Sumedho's been talking a lot about how he feels now at 92, and he feels like he's welcome to come anytime.
I got a couple other translations here, and they all say all. I always find all and always to be difficult.
Yes, I know.
I'm focusing a little more at all tremble at violence, because I know that when I see something, I react. So I'm not so afraid of death, but when I see violence, I definitely have like a somatic reaction to it.
Yeah, what did you want to say, Sophie?
Well, it's interesting. I'm a therapist, and I have one client, and she's dying from cancer, and we're very close, and I've been with her for a long time in this journey. She's also 79, and she's been very at peace with dying. She's been always very calm and understanding that she would have her time, and this is her time. But her body doesn't know that, and so we've been working a lot with just the somatic sensations of anxiety and fear of a body that wants to stay alive, because that's how we've evolved to stay alive.
That's right.
And how her mind is totally at peace with this and has done for years.
Yes.
And so I think about that to what we're talking about, of just the body fears death. Otherwise, we wouldn't live so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, naturally, right? Mm-hmm. The survival instinct. And this is so contextual too, because what the Buddha is talking about here is violence. And when that's the cause of death, we're probably going to feel fear. Mm-hmm. I would think that's most likely. I think it's pretty natural. And what you're talking about, I think, is good to remember, because once someone passed away who I didn't know before they had died, but their friends and partner asked if I would come to sit with the body and chant for overnight, and they told me that she was a very strong practitioner, that she had these ideas about how she wanted to go through death, through dying. And when she was going through the process of dying, one of the things that happened was the body couldn't breathe, and the body reacted very strongly, and that felt like a failure somehow. And it was just a good lesson. It's like the body has its own karma, and the body has its own timing. And even though you might be feeling like it's going to happen any minute, but it takes much longer than you think, or it might be that you feel like you're not ready, and there it goes, and it's just not up to us. And there are those gut reactions, even when, like you said, the mind is calm, you're clear about this process, it's resolved in your heart, but the body is like, wow, because that's what it does. Mm-hmm. It also, I think, relates to something that I heard Ajahn Mahabua say. It's in a recording where he talks about his whole path, and he said he never got over the fear of tigers, even though he was like, Ajahn Pasana referred to him as the Arahant of the age. And you have this image that Arahants won't be afraid of anything because there's nothing they're clinging to. But I suspect that that's the body. Mm-hmm. When you see a tiger, there's a reaction. That's what I think.
And there's some real beauty in that, because you can go, wow, look what the body is doing.
And I think we can also do that with other emotions that come up, jealousy or other ways in which we're triggered, anger, and even though we can observe it and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was still in there, but it's just the conditioning. kind of unrolling. You wanted to say something, Olive?
Well, the part where it says, putting oneself in the place of another, one should not kill nor cause another to kill.
Yes.
Yes, well, the cause
Mhm.
is the question.
Mm.
So what do you mean? What do you? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, if I see somebody killing somebody, if I don't step in, am I caught the cause?
No,
Mm.
no, you're not the cause if you don't step in. But there are people who cause other people to kill.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what's happening in the world right now. All kinds of people are sent into this situation, many of whom I'm sure don't want to kill anyone. And then you have other situations like that too. And it's one of the things I feel is problematic with having medically assisted suicide. Because you're basically hiring someone to kill you. So it's like we can cause other people to kill in various ways. So I think it's worth noticing.
And also, it's not just killing, but violence.
Yes, that's right. And in a case like the one I just mentioned, you don't it's not violent in that same way as, you know, someone attacking you, of course. But yeah, it's still taking life.
But in medically assisted, don't you have to do it yourself?
Not always. Not in every territory, in every definition. The definitions, according to what I've read, so I'm not an expert on this, but the definitions I've heard have become looser and looser over the years on that. Anyone online have any comments? More comments? I can't see everyone, so please raise your electronic hand if you do.
Marilyn's talking, but she needs to unmute.
Oh,
No, I'm trying to point you to Paula. She has her hand up.
oh, sorry, Paula, I didn't see your hand. Hey, the color of your hand is blending into your cupboards. So, and then we'll get to Ariane. She had something to say too. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that it gets really sticky these days when you want to be sure that you're not killing the cause of killing another. I think, right livelihood is huge in that respect. Choosing a job that isn't involved with military operations.
Mm.
And I actually just recently switched from one AI to another based on the fact that ChatGPT is being used for the military in ways that are not. There was an article in Time magazine about that. And it's not that, you should feel bad if you're still using ChatGPT, you didn't know or anything, but I think there's a way that we can, when possible, if we know that something is not a good way of existing, or avoid it,
Yeah.
just my thought.
Yeah, I think it's important to be discerning around what part we're playing in such a thing, because it's certainly true that, you could really go down a line of reasoning that says, well, our taxes are going to this killing, right? I asked Ajahn Kaliano, the one who lives near Melbourne in Australia, and because it was at the time I was there was a war going on in the Middle East that I was not in favor of, and I said, and I was a lay person, and I said, I don't know what to do. I pay taxes, He said, intend your taxes to go for the good things taxes go for, schools, roads, whatever, and not the war effort. Our intention matters. Not, I know for some of you go to peace protests. You're trying to put that message out there, encourage others who don't want to kill and don't want to encourage killing. But causing someone to kill is it's got more potency to it and more intention and maybe manipulation and power. I think that's a pretty different thing than, I just found out that the software I'm using is actually involved in this unwholesome activity. Not to say, I think, thank you for letting us know, but just to be clear about, how much implication there is. I don't think there's much actually when it's that far removed, but still, follow your conscience, follow your hiriotapa.
My thinking is that it's difficult to follow many of the precepts because we are in this form.
Yeah.
And we're conditioned and etc. It's kind of like if there's an ant there in the kitchen and suddenly I've squashed it, I don't have the feeling that that's taking away from me.
It depends on your intention.
Yeah, right.
So an accidental thing like that, it's not. That kind of thing is going to happen existing in this world. But if we're intentionally wanting to get rid of this thing, it will have an effect on the mind. So Ariane first.
I was just gonna say, it's always funny when you give lessons that are coincidentally aligned with what I've been reading about, because I've been reading a lot about evolution, and I've been thinking about the question of how it's possible, like how there is like this karma that we have that gives us birth in a body, but it's also that the body itself evolved in a way that, like, the body we have is something that evolved to do things that are not always so comically wholesome. It's about survival. And I was just wondering about that question of how, like, an arahant would, presumably they've cut off their karma in their body, but they still have inherited a lot of these weird instincts within their body, and I could never quite figure out where the line is between an arahant could not possibly have this particular thought or this particular thing that would create bad karma, but still have some of the inherited survival mechanisms in their body. And that, what was it, Ajahn Chah, or you were saying, who was still afraid of tigers?
Ajahn Mahabua.
Oh, that's not
that.
Mahabua. Okay, yeah. And it's hard for me to wrap my mind around, like, what is, like, sort of in our heads, our karmic, our bad intentions versus just these habits that we inherited that we can't do anything about.
Yeah, so this is a very good question, and it's really around being mindful and aware. So from our conditioning, anything might pop into our head, but we don't have to give it energy. And we can know, that I know where that comes from, I know what that's about, I'm not going there, I'm not going to follow that. So there is that distinction between just what comes up from conditioning, karma, and then what we actually put our own intention to. So even the Buddha, of course, this was before he was enlightened, and he said he put his thoughts into two categories. The Sutta 19, I think, in the Majjhima Nikaya, where he's like, oh, well, there are the thoughts that are about sensual desire, ill will, and harmfulness and harming. And that's one category. And the thoughts that are about renunciation, goodwill, or it kind of leans towards metta, non-ill will, and non-cruelty. That's the other set. And I would just divide the thoughts like that. And know that you're going to follow the ones on the wholesome side. So I don't think that even though in our hunt, I don't think those thoughts still might come if they're old, repeated thoughts.
So fear and disgust would be okay.
Any feeling could
Yeah.
arise, but the wisdom is so clear in our hunt, and we can know this ourselves. We can have feelings arise. Like I said, somebody based on karma, or karma is like all these natural processes and all the results of the experiences we've had, the conditioning we've had, that jealousy might arise, or anger might arise, but then it just fizzles out. I love that simile the Buddha uses, like an arahant has some strong feeling arise. It's like an ember flying out of the fire and landing on dry ground. It just goes out right away. So it's that quick. It just goes out. So noticing in ourselves. So sometimes people feel really bad about the thoughts that they have, even though they haven't asked for those thoughts. They're not like trying to think these thoughts. They're not holding on to these thoughts. So just don't grasp it.
I think about like how that kind of patience with oneself and close attunement to how one's mind is working is an antidote to the not cause another to kill kind of karma, in that like probably always there was something preceding that unwholesome thought, and it probably wasn't just what was happening inside of you, but it was the chain reaction of encounters you were having that day or that life.
Yeah.
And so being able to be attuned non-judgmentally and allow it to fall out is also like an empowering stance in the face of like what is not possible when like something has impacted another being to the point where they kill because of it, as opposed to recognize, oh, I'm angry or I'm scared, and allowing it to dissipate.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a saving grace. I mean, it's really how we wake up, like really practicing that position of witnessing without that blaming, without that condemnation, judgment. Discernment, yes, but not the criticism, not the ownership, just not grasping it. And not, this is not me, this is not mine. This is an impermanent phenomenon coming through. Yeah.
So Ayya,
Yeah.
so one of the things too is we're looking at this one on violence, is just in line with the first precept. And the question is perfection, so I mean, perfection ultimately is a goal. That's what would lead to nirvana and release. But I kind of live with just the dedication to be just doing the best I can and be aware of when I fall short. Try to let go of the sort of Protestant idea that falling short is a sin. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just, holding the intention.
And falling short probably means, the death of a small being or something like that, because it's not like falling short, oops, I killed my mother. It's not like that. It's not that kind of thing. And and it's a little hard to wrap our heads around what an arahant really is, because we think that they're going to know everything and be able to do everything without mistakes. And it isn't like that. It's that they fully understand, they see so clearly the nature of this reality. And they no longer make karma because they no longer have any identification with the results of actions. And they're so grounded in Nibbana that they also naturally don't harm by any intention. But could there be an accident? Sure. So, like we have these rules in the Vinaya, we're not supposed to kill human beings. If we do that intentionally, you can't be a bhikkhuni or a bhikkhu anymore in this lifetime. You're so far from being living a holy life. But if it happens accidentally, it's not a fault. And even killing animals, it's a confessable offense. So like an arahant can do that intentionally, but while you're on the way, people get in different situations. I don't know, but I don't think it's something I would do at this point. But you can't always prevent it with very small beings.
So that was kind of my question. So if I have a mosquito, I do kill it, but I always say, I'm sorry. No, I do.
You could try to blow it
I
away.
could try it. That's a good idea.
Or,
Because I've done that with other.
Ayya
experiences.
Chitananda's
That's a good
method
idea.
is you watch it suck the blood and you say, help yourself.
No, I'm not
I'm
going
not there.
I'm not
there.
going
Don't do
there.
that.
But I like the idea of blowing. But I also, I feel like, I'm choosing to take a life, but I am aware of that and regret at the same time. I'm not just like doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it with bad intention.
I
I'm
think
doing
you
it to save
still have an
myself.
option though.
Yeah, I like the idea of blowing.
I mean, there's, Ajahn Jayasaro, I heard him say one time, if you're at the stage in your practice where you're not going to kill a malarial mosquito, you really have hit a good mark. You've gone away quite a ways. And we don't have malaria around here, as far as I know. So I would practice training yourself to have a different reaction. I do think it would be better. And I get what you're saying, but I suspect my own experience is there's still something there in that.
Yeah, there's a power struggle.
That doesn't feel
There's
good.
a power struggle and I'm going to win. No, there is.
Power struggle with the mosquito.
Yeah, and I'm going to win this one.
I think the struggle is internal. No. Is it going to be my habit, or is it going to be my self-preservation, or is it going to be my metta?
Okay, I'll think about that.
Try that out.
I'll blow.
Yes, Olive.
My feeling about this is, it's not about killing the mosquito. It's about practice for the idea. Violence and killing is an extreme. And when it comes to the flies or mosquitoes or anything like that, it's a chance to practice not killing.
Yes. So the Buddha said in one point, if you'll kill a small creature, then you might kill a larger one. And if you kill a larger one, you might kill a still larger one. He takes it all the way up to a human being. It's your slippery slope concept, right? Well, most of us probably wouldn't take it all that way. But just my own experience when I first started to stay in monasteries, and the monks, like there's, whatever is happening with the insects or whatever different creatures, always taking care to move them away, to try to discourage them from getting into the sugar or whatever, right? And what I noticed in myself as I picked up those approaches was that I became softer and softer. So the care, instead of the power struggle or the protection, or me, I'm more valuable than they are, or something like that. I felt like it really helped the practice. It really helped soften my heart. It really helped, ultimately being less invested in the self. That's my experience. And I even thought at the time, how long will this mosquito live anyway? Is this really a problem for them? Maybe they have Wibawa Tanha. I don't know. Probably not. They have probably normal instincts of wanting to live. But that's not the point. Like you said, that's not the point. The point is, how can I use this for practice? And how can I learn about my mind? And how can I develop? Are we ready for the next one? Marilyn, yep, for reading that next one.
Yeah, does it start the same? Is that the second?
The second line, yep.
130.
Okay. I can't see it now. Something happened at the top. Yeah, there we go.
Healed it again.
Okay, so all tremble at violence. Life is dear to all. Putting oneself in the place of another, one should not kill nor cause another to kill. So what changed? Oh,
Instead of fear death, it's life is dear to all.
yeah.
So, not just my own life, but the life of my daughter, my son, my friends, all of our, yeah.
But are we not supposed to
What?
be attached?
Attachment is not the same. That was what I was kind of trying to say this morning. In the Metta Sutta, or in the highest blessing sutta, we see that the Buddha says, cherish your family. I mean, you care for these people you have this relationship with, and eventually you care for everyone. And to not want them to suffer and not want them to die in a violent way is a good thing. It doesn't mean you're grasping. The practice also helps to help us discern between attachment and the caring that we have, or the love that we have, or the people we have a close association with that is wholesome. I mean, of course, if we have that unattached love, it really becomes universal at some point. And it's also, when something is happening, like I was just listening to a story about a woman whose mother had pancreatic cancer, and she talked about being with her for those final weeks and being ready to let her go, right? Even though you care about her so much and you're doing everything possible to make her as comfortable as possible. So we can all kind of take the sample, the test, to see how much are we clinging or grasping, attached, and that's when we feel fear, worry, and it's a different from this kind of reaction that's normal. But when the mind and the heart are really caught up in this attachment, you can feel the suffering of that clinging. And that's what we want to pay attention to. Because even that also is natural. We want to observe it and really see it with wisdom and see how that disentangles with the practice. Does that distinction make sense? Yeah.
And you know, I think a lot, because we're human, we're very social. So this is a part of our biology, and our part of our survival is the need for connection with the others. So part of it is just the yearning in our body, and you know, grief maybe also just a part of our biology.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure,
So
for sure.
so it's honoring the fact that, you know, our body, our biology, the way, because we're just, you know, I mean, we think our mind is so important. You know, this
the
is
body
just
too.
happening. And to just
Yeah.
basically welcome the fact that we feel that love.
And even, you know, I've seen this with animals, and I've experienced this myself. If something tragic happens to someone and you're observing it in real life, your whole system reacts, even if you don't know them. I can understand how these stories, like someone is about to fall over the cliff and some total stranger grabs them, even though they could go with them. They're there to try to save their life. This is wired in, you know. And that's, you know, it's, I think as we develop the mind, we see the conditioning, and we can see what's good and what's not good, and we can also be present with what we're experiencing in a way that's with that wisdom to determine how we want to respond. Did somebody else raise your hand back here? No, a minute ago. Anybody else have any? Life is dear to all, ordinarily. If not, we're pretty, what is that, sociopathic?
But some of us are.
Sociopathic?
There are people who have
Well,
the
sure.
brain dysfunction.
Sure. But, you know, like all the suttas, like we talked about this morning, Marilyn, you know, when you read the suttas and you see, well, I don't see that it's every time, all circumstances. There are other kinds of circumstances. And if you read a different sutta, you'll see the Buddha, you know, showing that side of things. So we need to like recognize that there is a context when he's talking.
Yeah, she when Marilyn in the previous verse mentioned the all pure death and also this life dear to all, it kind of made me think of like being around kittens, and they definitely don't seem to fear death.
Oh.
and don't tell blood violence. Of course, they don't know anything, but I thought, you know, wouldn't it be great to have that mentality while knowing what life and death are.
Mm.
Yeah. So babies probably don't really have a fear of death either. Huh?
I don't know. They seem to have an automatic fear of falling.
Oh, really? And they
Yeah,
get
they
hungry.
just like
They need
right
food.
away react. Falling, it's not good. Yeah, well, in general, if you're
I
not,
just rather see most in there instead of all.
I always get prickly when like using words like sociopath or psychopath because of how I'm just calling other human beings monsters and thinking of them as monsters. Mostly, I mean, I think that what we're reading right now is a good reminder that their lives are dear. People that fit those descriptions, even if something is clouding their vision around feeling that love, you still have a responsibility to love them.
thank you. And I was thinking I'm looking to see, is sociopath the right label? And maybe
I also like from
isn't.
a mental health perspective, those terms and those ideas, in my opinion, are outdated, and that those behaviors and the people that meet those descriptions could be better understood as survivors of complex early childhood trauma. And
thank you.
Doesn't mean that their behavior, people that meet those descriptions can be very unsafe and, you know, can enact violence, but that those terms, I think, do more harm than bringing about understanding or safety for
Yeah.
anybody.
Okay, great. I mean, I was thinking, you know much more about the definitions of these things than I do, and I really appreciate that perspective, because in my limited experience with different kinds of trauma, that just rings so true. I mean, we are the product of causes and conditions, every one of us. And to understand that and to recognize that that's not a self gives us the opportunity to have compassion for anyone, no matter what they're going through, because they're a product of the causes and conditions that have come to this point, which is what you're saying. Yeah, thank you, Sophie. I think too, we when we label people and when we put them down, we are chipping away at our own integrity. So we want to be careful about that. Our own what we're chipping away at is our own clarity about who we really are. We're clouding that. And the same with intentional killing, causing people to kill. That's what it. Does that make sense? Anyone else want to say anything about this second verse? Should we go on? Carol, are you up for reading number 3 here? Can you see it?
Oh, yes. Yes. I actually have the book in front of me, the same version you're using.
Great.
Okay. But I did want to say one comment. I meant to say it earlier. That at the very beginning, the woman who had spoken about the body having its own a comma, or like your mind may be ready to accept death, but your body is not. And I never thought of that before. This was just, I'm sorry, it just was a big eye opener for me. And I appreciate that because I never thought of that. So thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So, okay. Now I can breathe.
And there are things you can do to your body to teach your body that it is okay. That's like what's really interesting.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like there are there's psychological, spiritual work you can do to prepare your mind, but you can also tend to your body. Like you can prepare everything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've just never thought of it like that. Like you could, contemplate, do the death contemplations and do all kinds of stuff with your mind, but you just don't sit down and say, hey, body, this is how it's going to be from now on. It just doesn't work that way. And yeah, anyways, it was such a big eye opener for me. Thank you. Okay, so it is 131. Okay. One who, while himself seeking happiness, oppresses with violence other beings who also desire happiness, will not attain happiness hereafter.
Thank you, Carol. So this pointing at karma, vipaka karma, that it does come back to us at some point, if it ripens. So that if comes because if we're practicing, if we're developing, if we want to see our mistakes or work through whatever caused us to oppress others, then that vipaka karma might not come back. It's not a sure thing. It needs the proper causes. Or it might, even for an arhat, they still might experience whatever results from previous unskillful actions. Yeah, Carrie.
I sometimes, not sometimes, I always have trouble. Sorry, I almost always have trouble, Marilyn, with with karma as like a cause and effect description. Because for me, if someone, as soon as someone does something harmful to another, my interpretation is their heart will immediately suffer and will continue to suffer. It's not even in another life, it's in this lifetime. People who harm others, I mean, I used to say it's like nicking my heart with the corner of a razor when I was denying my impulse to be generous because of all my training and conditioning. So it's not like in another life. They're not going to attain happiness right from that minute on.
Yeah, they may not notice it.
They may not notice it, but then that's why they'll do more.
Something bigger might happen later as a result too. I mean, the Buddha saw the workings of karma very clearly the night of his enlightenment, seeing so many eons of his own past lives and what was happening in one life, and then how he came to exist in the next life and what those conditions were. And then he saw it for so many other living beings that he had a very clear image of how that worked. And so he saw how conditions get caused by previous conditions, which is why living beings have such different conditions. Even kind of feeling like it's the same family or it's the same social, economic group or whatever, you still have very different conditions. Then you look at the whole range of experience for living beings, and it comes from something. It's not a crapshoot. And it's not God dishing out the talents or withholding the good health or whatever either, according to the Buddha. So it's both, There is a shadow over the heart. And it dulls your sensitivity to some degree, But then, depending on what it is, and the Buddha said it doesn't always come back the way it was done. In fact, he says it doesn't come back the way it was done. It comes back in a different way. So, why do you think that while he himself, or why they themselves are seeking happiness, they oppress others who are seeking or desire happiness? How do you see that in here?
One thought I would have is the sort of scarcity view. There's only so much happiness to go around.
Okay.
I thought of it like, sorry, Marilyn, raise your hand. I thought of it like denying your own nature.
Yes, Carol?
The very first word that popped into my head was greed, and you just want all the happiness for yourself. And if the happiness is a certain flower or whatever was considered happiness in the time of the Buddha as well as now, if it was in terms of who has the most toys wins, sort of a thing. Yeah, that was just what popped into my head.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of examples in our culture of people making a lot of money who are oppressive to their employees, for example. There's a real lack of empathy, maybe a strong sense of entitlement. Also, all things that are conditioned. Yes, Marilyn?
There's also the idea in parenting that, I don't want to do this, but I'm whacking you for your own good. This is for your own good. I'm doing this for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to break your leg to smarten you up,
Yeah.
Extreme case, but I think we do punish each other thinking we're doing good. That's a problem, I think, with the rule of law. I'm not saying I'm against the rule of law, but the punishment model, not sure about.
Mm. Not sure it's a deterrent as can be believed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, it harms us to punish them, right?
Mm.
That us and them thing. Not good. Not ideal.
Any other thoughts?
Maybe this is related to the scarcity thing, but it seems like jealousy. And a lot of that goes back to wrong view, but thinking that other people have it so much better than you.
Mm.
And if you do something against them, that will somehow resolve your perceived lack. I see that a lot, that mentality a lot.
Mm. Yeah, thinking we're somehow gonna gain by squeezing it out of someone else, or yeah, taking it from someone else. Or,
And not seeing too that like there is a I mean, going back to like the punishment thing, like it is true that when you believe in karma, at least for me, I find the more I root myself in that, the less interested I am in trying to punish, like have revenge on others, because I figure eventually it's going to come back to them naturally.
uh-huh.
And so I think more about like, okay, well, what can I do that minimizes harm to people or to society as a whole, and not inflicting harm on them.
Yeah.
Because I think I need my revenge or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Olive.
This passage says to me that if I'm seeking happiness, the method by which I seek happiness, which is to oppress another, is not the way to happiness.
That's right. And violence isn't the way to safety either. Same idea. Okay. Are we ready to move on? No? Let's see. Can't see everybody, I don't think. Maybe I can. All right, I think we can start in the room now. Okay, would you start, Ariane? Go around this way.
Okay, one who, while himself seeking happiness, does not oppress with violence other beings who also desire happiness, will find happiness hereafter.
Okay. And maybe right away, like we've been saying, you're going to feel better about the way you're interacting with people.
Yeah, I was thinking about what Ariane said earlier about jealousy and envy, and how, to me, mudita is the absence of envy. So this is very much like, for me, speaks to mudita, that you see other people also trying to have joy, and I feel a joy for them.
Yeah.
Then everybody wins.
That ability to put yourself in the place of another, like it said above, that, in the beginning, putting yourself in the place of another.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buddha uses this a lot. If you want happiness, remember that other people want happiness too. And don't take don't oppress them, don't harm them. Help them be safe, Yeah.
I like it because it sort of requires creativity and it sort of challenges what you thought would make you happy.
Mm,
And
yeah.
really try to uphold this. You know, may discover new things that made you more happy than the end goal you had when you sought out. You know, whatever it is that you were seeking, you know.
Do we need a little break? Does anybody need a break, or do you want to just keep going?
People have been getting up when they needed to. Do you need to get up?
Nope. I'm good. Okay. Sergio?
Yeah, speak not harshly to anyone, or those thus spoken to might retort. Indeed, angry speech hurts, and retaliation may overtake you.
Any thoughts? Pretty straightforward, probably.
Yeah.
I actually don't think it's so straightforward.
Tell us all about it.
Well, I
Ayya.
mean, the not speaking harshly, the speaking harshly has always been an aspect of right speech that's been really carved out.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, there are times where you have to be forceful in your speech, where it seems totally warranted to be forceful. And sometimes it's also right, you're going to have to point out something's terribly wrong here, you know, and you're also going to, some cases, have to say things that upset people. And so how to draw the line between that and what's actually like wrong, harsh, like what they mean by like the harsh speech that falls into the category of wrong speech. I've always found that there's a lot of confusion on that point, like including amongst Buddhists. Like I often see this, like, you're guilty of wrong speech because you pointed out something wrong with someone's paper. And it's like, well, I mean, it's sometimes it is difficult to know. There's sometimes where I'm like, oh, well, I think that they were excessive in their criticism, but they made some valid points. And then I'm like, well, maybe that was just their way of expressing themselves with pointing. It seems like it's not always so simple for me.
Could it be that this is just an example of dukkha? That when we do this kind of behavior, there are repercussions and they're unpleasant, and that's just part of dukkha. Could it be?
I think it's true. I hate doing anything that says things that ultimately upset people, even when it needs to be said. I don't know. Speak not. I mean, that the way it's worded is like a command, though. There, like, speak not harshly.
Well, it says speak not harshly, or there's going to be repercussions.
Yeah.
So you make the choice.
Are we talking about intention again?
It must be.
Because I can imagine a parent, grabbing a child who's about to run into the street, pretty harshly, grabbing them, pulling them back.
Right.
But the intention is very different.
But there's an real, like, they're all of a sudden gripped by fear. All of a sudden their biology kicked in and the brain turned off for about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Before it turns back on. Well, I don't know, but that's my theory. That the brain turns off for 10 seconds while the body reacts.
Well, I think it's meaningful that, like, again, we're in the chapter of violence, and like that this is all under the heading of violence. And I've been thinking about that a lot with our whole discussion today, that, violence is also like a variant of that root is violation, and thinking about like to violate someone, and that like this, we're talking about language that violates, as opposed to, I don't know if this is sort of what you were insinuating. I might be totally like misunderstanding or sort of misassuming what you were talking about. Made me think about someone who wants to say, you know, really like candidly, hey, what you said really hurt me, or hey, what you did really hurt me. That's not a violation. That's being very honest. But the intent is not to be violent. The intent is not to violate, as opposed to saying something with the intent of violating, of saying something actively cruel. Yeah.
Sometimes I find it helpful to like think of whatever criticism I give as a defense of someone. You know, if that makes sense. Like I'm criticizing someone because I think there could be a harm that they're inflicting that it shouldn't just be about me smashing that.
Yeah.
It's like
It should be to their benefit.
Yeah,
you know,
a benefit. It could be me.
to improve their understanding, whatever they're trying to share.
I thought I'd look at the at the dictionary definition just to see if we can get a little more sense of this word. So, violent, severe, sharp, harsh, rough, rude, unkind. It covers a lot of area.
I think this passage is about awareness, because if I'm not aware that when I speak harshly, there might be a reaction.
Yeah, I mean, it's saying, know that what you do is going to have results.
Right. That's what it says to me, and then to be aware that it hurts the other person.
Yeah.
So that says to me a lot of awareness. And it's not that it happens to me all the time, but it gets the length of the harshness reduces. The length of time that I'm being harsh to somebody, if I can get some awareness in there, then it doesn't go on forever.
Coming back to your example, and not all very direct speech that someone's not going to want to hear is necessarily harsh, right? A person might feel the harshness, feel it as harsh, but the Buddha at different places in the suttas talks about the characteristics of speech that we want to try to have, and he talks about how the Tathagata speaks, and in that, one of the things is he will say things that people don't want to hear, but he has a reason, and he does it at the right time. And so we wouldn't put this kind of harsh speech under that category. It may feel harsh. It may be hard to take, but it's different from angry speech. Like where, people mentioning, being aware, being discerning, knowing, have I resolved my own feelings before I've spoken? Or am I speaking or disciplining or reprimanding or criticizing from my own raw emotions?
Notice that in the second line, instead of repeating harsh speech, now it becomes vindictive speech, which is, kind of a revenge speech. The other translation I'm looking at too, there it changes to angry speech instead of just repeating harsh speech.
Right.
So there's, it's showing kind of a dark intention in more of a description of harsh speech is.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's that situation of don't say something that you're gonna regret later, you know, in a moment of anger.
Yeah, I adopted this idea of don't say something that someone else can turn into a bumper sticker in their mind. Because you know how certain things, it just sticks there and you just think it over and over again. You know, just don't say that.
I'm gonna make that a bumper sticker.
That one's okay. Paula?
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation that's been going on about what's harsh and what's direct.
Mhm.
I feel like this particular segment here is really pointing at learning to train yourself, like you mentioned, thinking before you talk. I can't tell you how many times myself or my husband might say something to each other, and you know, that sets the other person off. And then, as he says, that those spoken to might retort, so the other person retorts, and that hurts. And then the reaction is to have the retaliation. I feel like this is the Buddha saying, look, you really, this is not a good way to act or to speak. And that's the point that he's making.
Mhm.
And I think in the next one, when we get to it, it'll become even more clear. This is a training that needs attention. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, thank you. Marilyn?
Yeah, I used to read this, I still do kind of, as a kind of silencing thing, saying don't speak up. So a crime has been committed and it's being hidden, and you shouldn't speak up about it because that'll just make them mad. But what I think now is we still need to speak up, but we shouldn't speak harshly because it will be more effective if we speak calmly and clearly and quietly and we're not angry. We just lay out this behavior happened and this should not have happened, and something we have to correct this. And it's the harshness. It's not the don't speak. I think there are times when we must speak.
Yep. And sometimes our conditioning is that we don't want to speak because we don't want to get in trouble, you know, I mean, and actually it's important to speak, to call it out. Yep, I agree with you. I mean, I really like the parent effectiveness training or nonviolent communication as a training ground for this. Being able to look at what's going on inside ourselves as we identify what should be said, what's important to say, how to say it, how to not, you know, say it from an accusing place. And yeah, we do need to usually when the conditions are such that it's the right thing for us to do. There's so much variation that we have to have a lot of discernment, I think. But yeah, calling out things that are harmful, that we want to see done differently. Anything breaking the precepts, for example, or oppression or cruelty to others, things that are hurtful. I think what so you some are talking about speaking to protect or stand up for somebody. Is that you?
Yeah, like trying to formulate criticisms as defenses of like criticisms of one person as a defense of someone else, or even could be the same person
Right.
in a different way.
Bringing some light into it rather than heat, as they used to say where I used to work. that person has more heat than light. We don't want to be that person. Okay. So the next one. Is it you, Stephen?
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which way we're going.
If, like a broken gong, you silence yourself, you have approached Nibbana, for vindictiveness is no more in you.
So like all of these things, they're contextual. So I don't think every time someone silences themselves, they've approached Nibbana necessarily, but to have this sense that that we don't have that desire to retaliate. We're not vindictive anymore. That's definitely a quality that comes with, approaching Nibbana. I would say.
I mean, it's an interesting metaphor.
The silencing of yourself and the broken gong.
Yeah.
This, yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting metaphor, like something's broken. And it feels like becoming silent and approaching Nibbana is this beautiful thing. And what gets broken is that trigger for being vindictive, I guess.
Well, if think about in the Buddhist time what a gong looked like, if it was broken, would it be on the ground? Because it was hanging, it would still make a sound. And maybe it's also just being grounded.
But yeah, if it was laying on the ground, you couldn't sustain sound.
Right.
Nothing
It
happens.
would just hit the energy and go thump.
The earth is holding it.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't said anything yet, would you like to say anything?
I was just gonna say that the metaphor of the gong is interesting. It's like something that you hit. It's almost kind of like a violence. You hit it and it makes a sound.
I like that. I like the idea that it reverberates too. Like when you say something harsh or vindictive, it's going to have a reverberation.
Yeah, I think what Sergio was saying is we can be hit, but we don't, we don't feel it in the same way.
You don't reverberate.
Yeah, we don't
That's
reverberate.
right. That's right. I like it.
There's no reactive response.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next, shall we go to the back row first, and we'll come around the middle row, and then we'll come around the front row? Olive,
So it's 135.
I have to look at the.
Yeah.
Okay. Just as a coward drives the cattle to pasture. No, it's not coward, it's cowherd.
It's a shepherd, but it's not sheep,
Yeah.
so it's
Is
cowherd.
Yeah, this is a cowherd.
Cowboy. I heard it's cowboy.
The cattle to pasture with a staff. So do old age and death drive the life force of beings from existence to existence.
Oh, yeah.
Who put in the parenthesis there?
The translator. So, Stephen, you have another translation. What do you have?
Like a cowherd driving cattle to pasture with a staff, so aging and death drive human life.
I like this other one better personally.
I would think too.
The old age and death. First of all, whenever we see old age and death, the old age is really the proper, not just aging,
There's a king.
Um, so cowherd. Old age, growing old, decay. That's what the word really means. Decay. You're really deteriorating. Old age. It's not just aging. And this is Sujato, as a cowherd drives the cows to pasture with the rod, so too old age and death drive life from living beings.
That's really puts a different.
Yeah, puts a different spin on it.
Yeah.
Drives life from living beings. Old age, that's old age, and this is death. And this Panijang,
Must be the driving.
that's the living being. Genti, driving on, urging on. Life, urging life on. I think it is like really from lifetime to lifetime. I mean, old age and death is when this life is done in this body, then the energy seeks another body. So sometimes extremely forcefully. Really has a lot to finish. Really wants to get back in there.
I guess I don't understand how that works. Drive the life force of beings.
Well, the way I see it is, like we said, the body has its own process. And it unwinds, comes to an end in its own timing. I mean, unless it's cut short by something. Now, I don't mean disease, like a sudden disease is still part of that process. Violence is something else. But it drives the consciousness, you might say. Then the consciousness leaves the body. And it goes into another existence. If there's still, I might think of it as unfinished business. You haven't really understood the nature of conventional reality. You haven't come to peace with, the way it works, and you haven't let go of everything. So that's the force. And it's got the structure it has because of the karma you've made. So, but the force itself, that desire that pushes the body or pushes the consciousness to take up a new body, to enter a new body. Does that sound plausible? Does that sound
Doesn't quite land, but I guess so.
yeah. I mean, any of us who are conditioned in this culture where the idea of what happens after you die is that you personally go to one place or another, good place or a bad place, right? It's a very personal view of things. There's me, and this body is me, and when this body dies, then my soul will go on to, heaven or hell. That idea is all very personal. Like, I will exist forever in that place. A horrifying kind of idea if you think you're going to hell. Like so many people in my family, even though they were good people, that was the religion. Yeah, Calvinism, pretty dark stuff, and in my experience, and even to just trust that you're going to go to heaven and be there for eternity is still a very personal approach. And so the Buddha, really tried to drive home that isn't how it works. This concept of an enduring, everlasting soul is not how things actually work. However, there is this transmigration that happens until we've completely realized that we don't have to have any more of that driving force, that passion, that unfinished business, and let go of everything.
And then we come back as trees.
No, I don't think so.
So one thing I noticed is the chapter violence. So I guess when he's speaking of the cowherd, using the staff, it's sort of a violent control of the cattle to get them to their destination. So they're also bringing in the violence of old age and death driving our life force from one existence to another, showing the violence of that. I'm not sure what.
It's not my image of cowherds, so pastoral, you know, like little tap here and there, you know.
Yeah.
But and of course, old age and death can be fairly easy or fairly brutal. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, a lot of times most of the time, when a section is titled, it may not apply to everything beneath it.
Okay.
Like the suttas are arranged usually in groups of 10. And it might be named by usually the first sutta, whatever its topic is, names the section. And then sometimes it's a much more prominent sutta in the middle somewhere, you name it that. And the theory that these sections of verses might carry the same theme throughout is more likely in this case, but it also might be reading too much into it.
Okay.
Yeah, just a thought.
Were cows sacred at the time of the Buddha like they are now?
I don't think so. I think they were using a lot of them in sacrifices, which I don't think is part of what evolved out of the Brahminical tradition into the Hindu. But I'm not an expert on that. Yeah, Sophie?
I when reading it, to me, I feel like it reminds me to have humility towards old age and death, that they are my shepherd, and that I am not the shepherd of my life, but that they are my shepherd.
Very good point.
And that violence is often, especially oppressive violence, is the attempt or acting clouded from outside of that humility and trying to be the shepherd of someone else's life.
Yeah. Playing God. Yeah.
I think the important words are existence.
Even though they got added by the translator. Yeah, trying to give us that sense of
As an
driving your
Yeah.
life force driven where driving the life force of beings. Yeah. Marilyn?
It's just kind of going backwards, but could you remind me again why it's better to see it as old age rather than aging? It seems to me we don't always get old age, but we always age.
It's new age, but our aging doesn't really impact us in the same way as when we get old.
Maybe, but some of us don't get old.
Yeah, so then we're only dealing with death, which is also still very impactful. But old age is such an incredible teacher, such an incredible experience of this impermanent, to really see impermanence. And
we experience aging more dramatically as the older we get.
It goes faster, you're seeing the change. It's like when you're a child, 5 years makes a huge difference. With 2 years, it makes a big difference. And when you're aging, when you're in old age, it's similar. The things.
It seems to me aging is also more complex. Old age just seems like a a finite thing. Okay, you pass 70-year-old age or you're past whatever number you pick, but aging has a positive and a negative effect.
Can,
It's more complicated.
whether we like it or not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think a lot of it, like for any of us who are over 60 or 70, when I look back on my 40s or the 30s, 40s, and 50s, it felt like things changed a lot more slowly and it was just kind of going to go on forever.
Yeah.
Feeling, right? It's more like that. Where before you get to 30, you're young and you can do anything without, like feeling, I don't know, maybe, not everyone, of course, has the same experience. This is a broad generalization. However, I feel like once you hit 70, 80, 90, 100, you're very, you're, the impermanent nature of life and the true nature of the body are in your face.
Yeah. I guess I don't, I find when people say aging as if it's the terrible thing, I don't see it that way. I see it a different perception that there's aging is, well, for one thing, it's the way it is. So why not look at the advantages?
Yeah.
You
But
know, say
that-
as you get older, you become invisible. And I think, yeah, that's a good thing. Bad thing.
well, that's a cultural thing. That
Yeah.
is the same everywhere.
No,
And I think the reason the Buddha talks in these contexts about old age and death together is he's talking about suffering. Because when we get to that point in the dependent origination, old age, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. It's like this is the stuff where the rubber really meets the road in a human life. And that's why it's of interest. He's like, this is where the key source of suffering is. We're going to leave this, whatever we've done here, whatever has happened here, whatever connections we've made, and all of what we've created, and anything we think is ours is going to get left here. And that's, if we're attached to those things, we're going to suffer when that comes around, unless we've started to prepare ourselves and started letting go of things. So I think it's significant that we translate it as old age and not aging in this context. That's the word. Yeah. Okay. Next one.
When the fool commits evil deeds, he does not realize their evil nature. The witless man is tormented by his own deeds, like one burnt by fire.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind are the ICE agents who killed the people in Minnesota. Like and this is not to condemn them. I'm not condemning them, but I heard one person say, that's going to stick to them like tar for the rest of their life, like hot tar for the rest of their life. And you feel so sad for them, caught up in this thing that's going on.
So I have a question. Are they using fool and witless as synonyms, or are they making a distinction?
The fool is the tapani. Oh, that's evil, sorry. But usually that means they're just saying papa here. That's the evil. This is someone who's an evil person. Evil. They do evil because of the simpleton.
Can you click on that simpleton?
I don't know if we're going to get to find out what this is. No, it's not there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. or do-mado, foolish, stupid, unwise, fool, idiot. And this is a different word.
Mhm.
It's an evil action. Evil they do.
Is kamani kama? Put in that kamani.
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
action.
that's just the action.
That's the person doing it. But this is describing the person, like an evil person.
So an evil person doesn't realize their evil nature, but
But
yet
this person being unwise is tormented as if burnt by fire.
so the evil person is not tormented, but
No, it's the same person.
oh, you think it's
They're
the same
talking about the
person?
same person. They're just talking about the
Mm.
evilness of their action
Ah.
and then the stupidity of their mind, I think. That's what I think is happening there.
Yeah, the translation follows that. Because they're using another term for the same actor.
Thanks.
When a fool commits an evil deed, he does not realize their evil nature. It could say this witless person, to say it's the same person is tormented by their own deeds, like when burnt by fire. Any comments? Should we go on to the next one?
The next one runs together.
So we do? Yeah, okay. It is Carrie, right? Next. You didn't do it. Okay.
But you have to do all of them together.
Well, I think Sophie will go next.
For 137. One who uses violence against those who are unarmed and offends those who are inoffensive will soon come upon one of these 10 states.
Okay.
Keep going.
Inflicts violence. And those who are unarmed. Okay. Okay. So go ahead and read the 10 states, Sophie.
He will incur sharp pain, disaster, and bodily injury, or serious illness or derangement of mind. Or he will meet with trouble from the government, or grave charges, loss of relatives, or loss of wealth. Or his houses will be destroyed by a ravaging fire, and upon dissolution of the body, that ignorant person will be reborn in hell.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's definitive.
Little Calvinist.
That's from hurting innocent people, unarmed people.
Oh gosh.
Those are inoffensive.
Only one of the 10 states, not all of them.
They'll come upon one, yeah.
Like thinking back to something you were saying a little while ago, something that's sitting with me as these are sort of like given to us, this wisdom is being given to us, so that it's not our responsibility to cause this pain, but rather to trust that the Karma will teach them these things.
Yes.
And it is absolutely not it's like none of our business to,
There's
ensure that they lose their wealth, ensure that they lose relatives, even if our culture tells us that is so, it is not our responsibility.
Eye for an eye.
Business, yeah.
Revenge, capital punishment. No. Try to, restrain people who would do more harm. But the Buddha was all about rehabilitation. You look at the Vinaya, and there's so much in there about rehabilitation, how you work your way out of the situation you got yourself into. And if you look at stories like Angulimala or Moggallana, does whatever you do, there's a path of spiritual recovery. So he's just trying to point out this is how the energy of actions flows. And like when he says, like in a different sutta, the queen asked, why are some people beautiful and some people are ugly and some people are healthy and other people are sickly? And he talks about the conditions in previous lifetimes of the way they were. And then this is a result, but it's not the only possible result. He doesn't say that, but it's not that simple, but still, this is where you're headed. This is the kind of stuff you're falling forward on to come on yourself.
And I think it's really key. There's no talk about he deserves it. It's just, that's not what it's about at all. It's just like,
this is how it works.
This is how these processes unfold.
Yeah.
But not because people deserve anything.
Yeah.
Like it's an ignorant man, like we were saying, you don't like the term sociopath, you're just reflecting the person's ignorance of their deeds. That's all.
Yeah. Foolish. Being foolish. How many of us have been foolish?
Yeah.
In our youth.
Everyone's ignorant until they're enlightened.
There's still ignorance until we're enlightened. Yeah.
A lot of times in the text, ignorance refers to just not knowing the Four Noble Truths and establishing those.
Not understanding the nature of ultimate reality. Yeah. And the way things operate in conventional reality. Yeah, so I met a woman once who said, but I like to make sure they get their karma. You can tell what's in there. It's so toxic, it's like, again, oneself, if we want to, be vindictive or harm someone because we feel they've done harm, we're sentencing ourselves to the same kind of results. Not maybe in the same way because, it says someone who's unarmed, who's, offensive, right? But still, even if you're vindictive against someone who is offensive, it's not good. It's not going to be good for you, Yeah, so when we think about karma, then we wouldn't want to do harm to anyone, no matter what they've done.
And I'm talking a lot. When I read out 139 of like he will meet with trouble from the government or grave charges or loss of relatives or loss of wealth. I mean, you continue it on, but particularly when I was reading that, I was thinking about how many people are taken advantage of by the government, and that the majority of people that get in trouble with the government are being taken advantage of and are really victims to horrible cycles of state violence. And I think like using this wisdom, it's a good reminder as well that like no one deserves that. That even like there's something about like the separation between this wisdom and the government, not saying like this wisdom will be taken on by the government or it should be, but rather that like whatever the government is doing, if someone is getting in trouble with the government, we must have compassion for it. Like it is not our business to think that that is karma, especially when we know structurally in this country, it is so far from that majority of the time.
Any government throughout history that's been corrupt and oppressive is going to fall into that category. It doesn't, when the Buddha talks about things like this, he doesn't say this is what should happen. He says this is how it works. This is what does happen. Like there are places where he talks about people owning slaves. I was at a talk at a conference once where this man presented a paper where he's condemning the Buddha on various counts, and he used quotes like that saying the Buddha loved slavery. And you're just totally out to lunch, man. That's not what he's saying at all. So yeah, I mean, when the government is being used as a weapon against people who are innocent. Again, if the government was more, and oftentimes there are plenty of people working in the government who want to be focused on rehabilitation and helping people. It all comes down to, we're working with ignorance, we're working with cruelty, we're working with wisdom, we're working with stupidity. Human life is a real mixed bag. And there are results. Yeah. We might be able to make it through this section.
Yeah, we'll get up to old age. If we get through this.
Yeah. Joyce, are you alone?
Yeah, which one are we on?
141, I think. 140.
Yeah, 141.
141.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I get to read all these interesting words. Neither going about naked, nor matted locks, nor filth, oh God, nor fasting, nor lying on the ground, nor smearing oneself with ashes and dust, nor sitting on the heels in penance, can purify a mortal who has not overcome mental wavering.
Okay. So you probably recognize some of these austere practices that have been talked about in the suttas in various ways, and the idea that some spiritual seekers had and still have, I think, that if we beat ourselves up enough and we have enough physical torment, then it's somehow going to purify us. And the Buddha said, I've tried that, it does not work. and unless we change the way we're understanding things, unless we have insight and are developing our heart, we're not going to overcome the problem. The mental wavering is still that you don't know what is really right and wrong, kind of thing, or what brings purity and what doesn't. Anybody else have any other comments? You ever tried any? No, never mind. Yes, Marilyn.
But restraint, maybe not that extreme austerity, but restraint seems like a really good thing. Is that like a small austerity?
Restraint is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think restraint is in here. I don't think
I
so.
don't see it.
Yeah.
Maybe she's reading a different
Yeah.
version.
No, but how does restraint relate to austerities?
Well, restraint or renunciation
Yeah.
are to give up things that are not good for us.
Oh,
Renounce the things that lead us into difficulties. I mean, if you want to renounce something that's not so bad, like a lot of times practitioners, for the 3 months of the Rains retreat, maybe they'll give up sugar, but even then, that can be a very positive thing, or give up something else. Or some people feel like monastics giving up sexual activity is somehow a horrible thing to do, but it doesn't hurt anybody.
it seems like an austerity though to some. I mean, a lot of these things, sleeping on the floor, is it an austerity? I don't.
But austerity is different from, or what? Well, let me see. There are things that the Buddha allowed in terms of austere practices, and there are things he didn't allow.
Oh.
So, like an austere practice of just alms mendicants just eating the food that they collect in their alms bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, but not the austerity of you eat 1 grain of rice a day.
Yeah.
So it has to be something that's a good training and not detrimental.
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
Thank you.
So you did already. Yes, we got.
Yeah.
And now it's you, Carrie.
Oh. Even though he be well attired, yet if he is poised, calm, controlled, and established in holy life, having set aside violence toward all beings, he truly is a holy man, a renunciate, a monk.
So this being controlled, and I think established in the holy life would be you're keeping the precepts, the monastic precepts. So even if you have beautiful robes, you're calm, you're poised, you're kind. I'm sure there's no violence towards any living beings.
So is it
You
saying,
don't have to be like doing all these weird austerities.
yeah, like he could even be dressed what you might call luxuriously.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people offer silk robes, stuff like that. They still have to, for the mendicants, it still has to be in the range of what's acceptable for mendicants. But lay people can be holy. Ajahn Gana says it a lot. The word pra in Thai is holy, or you live the holy life. And he says it doesn't matter if you're lay or monastic, you could be pra. Live a holy life. And so, sure, if a person's attached to having the fancy clothes or whatever, that could be a problem, but this kind of person wouldn't be like that. Those things don't have to be barriers. I think that's what it is. Because there are so many people who are really attracted to and inspired by these real austere practices. And so he's trying to shed some light on that, I think. Any comments or thoughts? Okay, Tatiana.
Only rarely is there a man in this world who, restrained by modesty, avoids reproach as a thoroughbred horse avoids the whip.
Restrained by modesty.
How would you define reproach in this context?
Well, nobody actually ever really avoids criticism, even the Buddha, right? But the reproach isn't deserved. I think that's, and he uses this simile of the thoroughbred horse in another sutta where he talks, there are some horses that they just feel the movement of the rider or they just see the shadow of the whip and they right away, or you just tap them and they right away straighten up. And some of them you got to hit them. And that's the way people are. So if you're like already restraining yourself and you're modest and you're trying to be skillful, and this is the horse who avoids actually getting hit, actually getting whipped. That's what I think. So I'm going to read the last 2 or 3. Like a thoroughbred horse touched by the whip, be strenuous, be filled with spiritual yearning, by faith and moral purity, by effort and meditation, by investigation of the truth, by being rich in knowledge and virtue, and by being mindful, destroy this unlimited suffering. So, any questions or comments? I think we get it. use it. So a lot of the Noble Eightfold Path is here. And other qualities of the Buddha talks about a lot. Faith, the different aspects of moral purity, of virtue, right effort, meditation, wisdom through investigation of truth, knowledge and virtue. It's a nice list. Irrigators regulate the waters. Fletchers straighten arrow shafts. Carpenters shape wood, and the good control themselves. Voila.
Yeah, that's a
That's
nice,
the bumper
nice
sticker.
way to end.
That's the bumper sticker. Control your. Well, we're not going to shout it at them or anything. Yeah. Oops. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Always thank you for doing the drive.
Yeah.
If you'd like to show your gratitude, there's a down the basket.
So I think the list of dates is all up on the website, and it's really nice to see you come out on short notice. I guess it has been.
It's been a long time since you've been here.
Yes.
5 months.
Yes,
Almost 5
because
months.
there was this. I guess December was whatever we did, and then 3 months of winter retreat, and then a month of traveling, and here I am. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.